Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello everyone, my name is Kyle Foley and I am an assistant editor at But Why Though, a geek community. I tend to focus on video games, but also reviewing things like anime, manga, and even some books. So, I am here today to talk to you about what is quite possibly my all-time favorite game. Probably just is. I don't know if I could really think of anything that I love more than this game, and that is Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. It is the first game of the series, released in 2002 when I was but a wee lad, 6 years old, to make some of you people feel old, or to make myself feel old, for those of you that are significantly younger. Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus is the first game in the series. The series has, I believe, there were 4 games total, and it's long been one of my favorite series, one of my favorite franchises. But the first game is one that is so good that I go back and replay it every year. The story is really, really fascinating. So Sly Cooper, who is the main character, is a part of this long family history of master thieves, the Cooper clan. And basically the premise is they have this book that has everything about, how to be a thief, how to be a master thief, and all these different things. It's called the Thievius Raccoonus, so now we see the name, Sly Cooper, Thievius Raccoonus. It's awesome. I love naming conventions from the early 2000s, everything nice and easy. So when Sly is a child, this group of bad guys known as the Fiendish Five come in and they take pages from that book and they split it amongst themselves. And so it sets the premise of, okay, now we're going to go hunt down all of them and we're going to get these pages back. So Sly teams up with his best friends, and basically the entire kind of premise is these 3 traveling around to all these different areas. So he's with Bentley, who is a turtle, who is like the genius of the gang. And then there's Murray, who's the muscle, who is amazing. He's a giant pink hippo, which is great. There's also Inspector Carmelita Montoya Fox, who is the inspector who's charged with hunting Sly, because Sly is a master thief. They are criminals. They are not, good guys in the normal sense. Part of the reason that I love this franchise so much, besides the fact that I just think the story is fun and the characters are fun, it looks incredible. The art style, I feel like, still holds up today. It's got that nice, cell shade type feel to it. But really, beyond any of that, beyond the excellence of the characters and the way it's all designed, it's just how much this game means to me personally. As a child, my parents were very limited in the type of games they would allow me to play. I was allowed to play Pokemon on my old Game Boy Color, and that was pretty much it for the longest time. So Sly Cooper was, when it had come out, and I was only 6 when it had come out, but it was one that they had let me play from the beginning, and it was the first real, console full game that I ever had, to myself to play. I wasn't going to a neighbor's to play it. I wasn't borrowing it. This was my game, and for the longest time too, it was the only game I had. So it was one that I would play over and over and over again, and it was just so great. Such a fun, enjoyable experience. And the other thing too that made it really special is my dad would actually play with me. So my dad and I, even to this day, still get along pretty well. But as a kid, it's hard. When my dad worked all the time, it was hard for us to find time to spend time together. So this was kind of our opportunity to do that. But when I wasn't playing with my dad on the weekends, when I was just sitting during the week by myself, I really felt like I was a part of this Cooper gang that they had in this. I felt like Murray and Bentley and Sly were my friends and that I was spending time with them. And so getting to go back and replay this game kind of gives me that sense of reliving that and getting to kind of go back to that childhood in that group of friends that I had, even if it's a fictional group. Obviously, like I said, the game holds a lot of personal importance to me, but beyond that, it's just a really fun game. The 5 different members of the Fiendish Five are really interesting. They're really fun. The Clockwork is kind of like the big bad. Who you fight at the end. He shows up throughout some other games in this series, but you have Sir Raleigh the Frog, which is fun. And basically, so the premise is when you're going to get these bosses, you have to go and clear all these different levels in their areas and get a certain amount of keys, and you unlock further areas, so on and so forth. Relatively straightforward. There's like a sort of open world little area in each of these bosses' territories where you get to go and select, it's the little overworld where you're going to select the missions from. So it's cool. The environments are all very different. So Raleigh the frog is on like an abandoned pirate ship, and there's, it's raining everywhere, and he controls the weather. So it's really, really cool. And you're trying to get up to his blimp. There's lots of really fascinating things there. You go on from there and you go to Mesa City, Utah, where Raleigh's old friend Mugshot is there in the city. Again, similar concept. You've got this city overworld. You've got these missions you're choosing from. It's really, really fun. Then they start to get even more interesting. You go to the Haitian jungle, Miss Ruby, a voodoo priestess. There's lots of ghosts, some spookiness. This was the one that, as a kid, took me so long to get through. I'm talking like weeks and weeks of trying. And in my defense, I was 6, so, it was supposed to be hard. And it's certainly not still sometimes challenging for me now as an adult, because that would be mildly embarrassing. But no, this took a lot of effort for me to get through, but it's a really, really fascinating. As a kid, like, I was spooked out a bit. Obviously now I realize it's pretty cartoony and not that spooky, but really, really cool, really well made. From there you go and you go up against the mysterious Panda King in the Kunlun Mountains of China. There's some really, really cool stuff where he actually, so what he does is basically his kind of what he does as a villain is he triggers avalanches by using fireworks, which is just a dastardly evil thing to do, and it's kind of interesting in the way that they implement it. So I really find all that fascinating. And then of course you've found all them, you've caught them. It's 4 of the 5 Fiendish 5. You've gotten these pages back from the book, and you learn all these new mechanics. And then you go up against Clockwork, who it turns out has actually been around since the beginning of the Cooper clan. I mean, he's been there for centuries. He has been kind of the thorn in their side. So you're chasing him down to this really, really cool volcano level in Russia, which is just super great. Such a fun final level. There's a lot of cool story stuff that goes on between the Cooper gang that they've got there, as well as Carmelita coming in to the picture. It's really, really cool getting to play through all of this. Like I said, all the different areas are so distinctly different, right? You have a jungle, you have snowy mountains, you have a volcano, you have a rainy pirate ship, and you have a city in Utah. I mean, things are very, very diverse and feels very different, and it's really cool. And then the game ends when you've defeated Clockwork, and there's a cool little teaser at going into the next game. And that, for me, was just one of the coolest moments where I was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be more. And there is, and the rest of the series I enjoy. But this is the one that kind of really sticks with me the most. The soundtrack is really fun. What I actually didn't know was that the influences for the soundtrack, for the composer Ashif Hakik, said that a lot of the music was inspired by composers like Yoko Kanno and her work on Cowboy Bebop, which is like one of my favorite soundtracks ever. So it's really, really, really cool that that's kind of one of the influences for this game. And I think it's part of why I ended up liking both jazz and the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack, as I've gotten older, is like some of my very first introductions to music in general was kind of something like this, and it really resonated with me, and then that's kind of stuck with me as I've gone into my life, being a professional musician on some levels and teaching music and things like that. So that was really, really cool. This franchise came out at a time when I was already playing, or where I was going to be playing. Sorry, it came out around a time with things like Ratchet and Clank and other series that would come to kind of be mainstays in my gaming repertoire over the years, but nothing has ever reached the level for me of impact that Sly Cooper has. I mean, I will go back and replay these on my PS2 that I still have from back in the day. I also repurchased the games on PS Vita, purchased a PS Vita, and have played them on there. It really is just a fascinating series. So I hope that other people will get the chance to check it out. I love it. If you'd like to know what other things I love, you can check me out on Twitter at kfoley, Foley, FL, where you'll see terrible tweets about how mayonnaise belongs on hot dogs. Hot dogs are sandwiches, and every game that I like is the greatest game ever. Thank you all for listening. Happy gaming.
Hey there, Screen Beans. Have you heard about Screen Snark? Rachel, this is an ad break. They aren't screen beans until they listen to the show.
Fine. Potential screen beans. You like movies and TV shows, right?
I mean, who doesn't? Screen Snark is a casual conversation about the movies and television shows that are shaping us as we live our everyday lives.
That's right, Matt. We have a chat with at least one incredible guest every episode, hailing from all walks. We've interviewed chefs,
Writers, costumers, musicians,
yoga teachers, comedians, burlesque dancers,
folks in the film and TV industry.
and more.
We'd be delighted for you to join us every other Monday on the Certain POV Podcast Network.
Or wherever you get your podcasts, fresh and tasty off the presses.
What? That's not.
Can I call them screen beans now?
Fine.
Screen beans.
So tune in and we'll see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
'Cause you're all screen beans now.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.